Welcome to the Prevention of Workplace Violence training module. Today, participants will learn the requirements of the Workplace Violence Prevention Act and Department of Labor regulations, define workplace violence and understand the different types, learn the key elements of Depew Union Free School District Workplace Violence Prevention Policy and Program. Learn where our policy statement is posted and how to obtain a copy of our workplace violence program. Learn workplace violence risk factors and prevention efforts, and learn how to report incidents of workplace violence with the employer and the Department of Labor. New York State Labor Law 27B, known as the Workplace Violence Prevention Act, was enacted in 2006. In 2009, the New York State Department of Labor implemented regulations to accompany the Workplace Violence Prevention Act. These regulations can be found in the New York Codes, Rules, and Regulations and are enforced by the New York State Department of Labor. The Act and Department of Labor regulations require public employers to develop and implement a workplace violence prevention program. The Depew Union Free School District will develop a workplace violence policy statement, perform a risk evaluation and determine workplace violence risk factors, develop a written workplace violence prevention program that establishes and implements a workplace violence incident reporting and recording system, implements safeguards and control measures to protect employees from workplace violence. The district will further provide employees with information and training on workplace violence and perform an annual review of the workplace violence incident reports. The Depew Union Free School District cannot take retaliatory action against any employee who exercises their rights under this law. Retaliatory action is a discharge, suspension, demotion, penalization, or discrimination against any employee or other adverse employment action taken against an employee in the terms and conditions of employment. What is workplace violence? It is any physical assault or act of aggressive behavior occurring where a public employee performs any work-related duty in the course of employment, including, but not limited to, any verbal or physical attempt or threat to cause physical injury on an employee, any intentional display of force giving an employee reason to fear or expect bodily harm, intentional, wrongful, and non-consensual physical contact that causes injury, stalking an employee with the intent of causing fear or harm to their physical safety and health. New York State Department of Labor regulations define a workplace as any permanent or temporary location outside an employee's home where an employee performs any work-related duty in the course of employment. Some examples include central office, field trip location, out-of-office meeting or conference, sporting events, and the school bus. Categories of violence. Type 1, violent acts by criminals who have no other connection with the workplace but to enter to commit a robbery or another crime. Type 2, violence directed at employees by customers, clients, patients, students, inmates, or any others for whom an organization provides services. Type 3, violence against coworkers, supervisors, or managers by a current or former employee. Type 4, violence committed in the workplace by someone who has a personal relationship with the employee, such as a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, or domestic partner. Why do we care about verbal and physical violence in the workplace? Employees have a right to a safe and secure workplace. Workplace violence can impact employees' physical and mental well-being. Workplace violence interferes with the mission of the Depew Union-Free School District. The Depew Union-Free School District must develop a written policy statement on the Depew Union-Free School District's Workplace Violence Prevention Program that describes the goals, objectives, method for incident reporting, and how authorized employee representatives, or AERs, can participate in the workplace violence program. An AER could be a union representative or an employee designated by their employees. The policy statement must be displayed where notices to employees are normally posted. The key elements of the workplace violence policy statement. It describes the goals and objectives of the Depew Union-Free School District's Workplace Violence Prevention Program. It includes key definitions, outlines the role of authorized employee representatives, and briefly addresses the procedure for reporting incidents of workplace violence. Incidents of workplace violence may be reported to the Depew Union-Free School District's Workplace Violence Prevention Coordinator. Depew Union-Free School District has designated Elizabeth Stearns, School Business Administrator, as the Workplace Violence Prevention Coordinator. The Workplace Violence Prevention Policy Statement is posted where employee notices are customarily posted, including break rooms and at time clocks. The Workplace Violence Prevention Act and the associated regulations require Depew Union-Free School District to perform a risk evaluation to determine workplace violence risk factors. It must include record examination, assessment of relevant policies, work practices, and work procedures that impact workplace violence, and evaluation of the physical environment with the participation of authorized employee representatives. The Depew Union-Free School District must review workplace violence incidents that occurred in the previous year to identify patterns in the type and cause of injuries, specific areas within the workplace where incidents occur, specific workplace practices involved in incidents, and specific individuals involved in incidents. The Depew Union-Free School District must assess related policies, procedures, and work practices that impact risk of workplace violence. The Depew Union-Free School District, with participation of the AER, must evaluate all workplace locations to determine what factors place employees at risk of workplace violence. Factors may include, but are not limited to, contact with the public, working late night or early morning hours, exchanging money with the public, working alone or in small numbers, and uncontrolled public access to the work location. The Workplace Violence Prevention Act and New York State Department of Labor regulations require the Depew Union-Free School District to create a comprehensive written workplace violence prevention program with the participation of the authorized employee representatives. Depew Union Free School District has solicited input from the AERs on situations in the workplace that pose a threat of workplace violence. And on the program, the Depew Union Free School District intends to implement. As required by the Act, our workplace violence prevention program includes risk factors identified in the risk evaluation, methods and means to prevent workplace violence, and implemented safeguards addressing each identified risk factor, a hierarchy of control measures which ranks safeguards from most effective to least effective, incident reporting system, employee training outline or lesson plan, and a plan to review workplace violence incidents once a year and update our program as needed. The Act and Department of Labor regulations do not require information obtained in complying with the law to be disclosed if it must be kept confidential for security reasons, including the following: interference with law enforcement investigations or judicial proceedings, deprive a person of a right to a fair trial, identify a confidential source or disclose confidential information, reveal criminal investigative techniques or procedures, and endanger the life or safety of any person. The Depew Union Free School District's Workplace Violence Prevention Program can be found in the main office of each building and with the Workplace Violence Prevention Program Coordinator. The Act and New York State Department of Labor regulations require a list of the risk factors identified in the workplace risk evaluation. The Act and New York State Department of Labor regulations require a method by which the Depew Union Free School District will address each specific risk identified in the workplace risk evaluation. New York State Department of Labor regulations require our workplace violence prevention program to adhere to a hierarchy of control measures or safeguards. The hierarchy, ranked from most to least effective, is engineering controls, work practice controls, and personal protective equipment. The methods to address specific risk factors are shown in the chart below. First column, we see general Depew Union Free School District risk factors. These were identified as being district-wide. Security to the receiving dock area, locking of electric panels, providing signage in hallways, providing control access to school offices, relocating emergency portable phones in classrooms, securing athletic areas with fencing, locking up buildings and grounds equipment, exterior doors with many keys being out to many staff members, and de-escalation training where some staff have not actually received said training. Our program control types are listed in column 2, and the identified method to address each risk factor is listed in column 3. The next table, we see specific incidents identified in the risk assessment exercise for the entire district. These include repairing broken concrete at curbs and sidewalks, increasing lighting levels in the rear of the campus, restriping parking lot lines and crosswalk lanes, stopping parents from driving too fast through drop-off areas in front of school buildings, and stopping cars from going through the traffic signal on Transit Road in the front of the district. Again, our program control types are listed in column 2, and the method to address those identified incidents is listed in column 3. Next, we see identified risks at Depew High School. These include installing a panic button in the superintendent's office and removing items in the high school office that can be used as weapons. Repeating, we have our program control type in column 2 and the identified method to address those risks in column 3. We also see identified incidents specific to Depew High School. This one being use of drugs, program control type then listed, and finally method to address by increasing level of student announcements describing this issue and consequences of that behavior. Moving on to Depew Middle School, we have identified incidents of broken fencing at the football field and excessive bullying and fighting. Our program control types are then listed in column 2, and finally the method to address these incidents is listed in column 3. Cayuga Heights Elementary, the identified risks. Bushes and shrubbery in the front of the building are potential hiding places. Teacher and staff being injured by students. Kitchen door unlocked when not in use. Some kitchen entrances that do not have doors. And locker room doors not locked. Our program control types are listed in column 2. And more importantly, our methods to address these identified risks are listed in column 3. We also have identified incidents at Cayuga Heights Elementary. 1, the use of a weapon to threaten another student, and 2, students throwing objects and injuring staff. Again, program control type in column 2, and identified method to address these incidents listed in column 3. Finally, the Depew Transportation Department. 2, identified risk factors. 1, established communication system for drivers on field trips, and the entrance door is sometimes left open. Our program control types are shown in column 2, and finally our methods to address these risks in column 3. The Act and New York State Department of Labor regulations require Depew Union Free School District to design and implement a system for employees to report any workplace violence incidents that occur that includes a recording process to file an incident report with the Depew Union Free School District and a record-keeping process for incident report records to be maintained, and a process for employees to file complaints with the Department of Labor. For workplace locations where there is a developing pattern of incidents that involve criminal conduct or a serious injury, an employer must attempt to develop a protocol with the district attorney or police to ensure that violent crimes committed against employees are promptly investigated and appropriately prosecuted. If a protocol exists, the employee training must include information on the protocol and contact information for employees that wish to file a criminal complaint after a workplace violence incident. The Depew Union Free School District must develop and maintain a workplace violence incident report in any format that records for each workplace violence incident the following information at minimum. workplace location where the incident occurred, time of day or shift when incident occurred, a detailed description of the incident, including events leading up to the incident and how the incident was resolved, name and titles of employees involved, name or other identifier of others involved, nature and extent of injuries arising from the incident, and names of witnesses. Our Depew Union Free School District's incident report form can be found with the Workplace Violence Prevention Written Plan, which is located in the main office of every school building, and with the Depew Union Free School District's Workplace Violence Prevention Program Coordinator, Elizabeth Stearns, School Business Administrator. For incidents where privacy is a concern, the report will replace the employee's name with Privacy Concern Case. The following incidents are to be treated as privacy concern cases: an injury or illness to an intimate body part or the reproductive system, an injury or illness resulting from a sexual assault, mental illness, HIV infection, a needle stick injury, or cuts from sharp objects that are or may be contaminated with another person's blood or other potentially infectious material. Other injuries or illnesses if the employee independently and voluntarily requests their name not be entered on the report. Any employee or authorized employee representative who becomes aware of a physical assault, threatening behavior, or verbal abuse in the workplace must immediately provide written notice of the facts and circumstances of the violent incident to a supervisor or the Workplace Violence Prevention Coordinator, Elizabeth Stearns, School Business Administrator. The workplace violence incident reports must be maintained and reviewed once a year. The Depew Union Free School District, with participation from the AER, must conduct a review of the workplace violence incident reports at least once a year to identify trends in the types of workplace violence incidents that have occurred and evaluate how effective actions and safeguards to reduce workplace violence have been. Record keeping. All incidents of workplace violence must be documented in a workplace violence incident report. Workplace violence incident reports provide a written description when an incident occurs so that Depew Union Free School District administration can evaluate why the incident occurred and implement an appropriate safeguard or control measure to reduce the risk of those incidents from happening again. The Workplace Violence Incident Report also creates a historical record. The Workplace Violence Incident Reports will be reviewed at least once a year to determine if and how the workplace prevention program should be updated. According to the Act and Department of Labor regulations, an employee or their representative should notify a supervisor in writing if they believe that a serious violation of the employer's workplace violence prevention program exists or an imminent danger of workplace violence exists. Once their supervisor is notified, the Depew Union Free School District must be given a reasonable amount of time to correct the activity, policy, or practice causing the violation or danger. However, an employee or their representative does not have to notify their supervisor in writing in instances where imminent danger of workplace violence exists and the employee reasonably believes in good faith that reporting to a supervisor would not result in corrective action. An imminent danger is defined by the Act and New York State Department of Labor regulations as any workplace condition or practice which could reasonably be expected to cause death or serious physical harm immediately, or which could reasonably be expected to lead to the danger of death or serious physical harm, which could be eliminated through the enforcement procedures of the Workplace Violence Prevention Program before the danger became immediate. A supervisor is defined by the Act and Department of Labor regulations as any person in an employer's organization who has the authority to direct and control the work performance of an employee, or any person who has the authority to take corrective action regarding the violation of a law, rule, or regulation that an employee reported. After notifying the employee supervisor and a reasonable time to correct the matter has passed, the matter has not been resolved, the employee or their representative believes the serious violation or imminent danger still exists, the employee or their representative may request an inspection by contacting the New York State Department of Labor. The notices to the Department of Labor Commissioner must be in writing, describe in detail the reason for the notice, must be signed by the employee or their representative. The New York State Department of Labor Commissioner will provide a copy of the written notice to the Depew Union Free School District no later than the time of inspection. The employee or representative may request that their name be withheld from the Depew Union Free School District's copy. Employees can report violations to the Public Employee Safety and Health, or PESH, Bureau at the Department of Labor's Division of Safety and Health directly using the complaint form linked here, or by calling 1-844-SAFE-NYS. The DOL inspection will take place at the workplace location where the alleged violation occurred. It does not have to be limited to the alleged violation, may include other areas of the location if there is reason to believe that a serious violation exists, and may include other workplace locations of the Depew Union Free School District if there is reason to believe that a serious violation exists. The New York State Department of Labor regulations require a written outline or lesson plan for employee training on workplace violence to be included in the written workplace violence prevention program. The Act and Department of Labor regulations require Depew Union Free School District to provide each employee with information and training on the risks of workplace violence in their workplace locations. Training must occur at the time of the employee's initial assignment, at least 1 year after that, and whenever significant changes have been made to the Depew Union Free School District's workplace violence prevention program. At a minimum, the training must include the requirements of the workplace violence prevention regulations, the risk factors identified in the risk evaluation, with the exception of information kept confidential for security reasons, measures that employees can take to protect themselves from physical violence, specific procedures implemented to protect employees such as incident alert and notification procedures, appropriate work practices, emergency procedures, use of security alarms and other devices, and the location of the written workplace violence prevention program. The New York State Department of Labor regulations require Depew Union Free School District to review the program once a year and update as needed. A review is also recommended whenever there have been a significant change to the work location, such as renovation, or when a significant violent incident occurs. The Depew Union Free School District, with participation of the AER, will conduct a review of filed incident reports to identify trends in the type of incidents in the workplace and review the effectiveness of the mitigating actions taken. On an annual basis, the Workplace Violence Prevention Committee will oversee the process of reviewing and, if necessary, updating the Depew Union Free School District Workplace Violence Prevention Program and corresponding policy. As part of the process, the district will, with the participation of all authorized employee representatives, review the workplace violence incident reports from the past year to identify trends in the types of incidents in the workplace and review the effectiveness of the mitigating actions taken. Work to determine and address the root cause of incidents. Determine if any change needs to be made to control measures, and assess whether the reporting and record-keeping systems have been effective in collecting all relevant information. Additionally, Depew Union Free School District will conduct an evaluation of the physical environment when facilities are changed and on a regular basis to assess the functionality of equipment. Our workplace violence prevention website provides additional information, including frequently asked questions and a fact sheet for employees. It is available at the link below, the New York State Department of Labor website. Employees can also contact the PESH Bureau to ask questions about violations by calling the PESH Bureau's toll-free number at 1-800-SAFE-NYS. Some workplace violence prevention resources include the New York State Department of Labor Safety and Health website, the PESH Health and Safety website, CSEA Occupational Safety and Health website, as well as NYSET, BOCES, OSHA, NIOSH, and the FBI. This curriculum was initially developed with New York State funding and intended for training New York State employees. Permission for use by public employers in New York State has been given by the Office of Employee Relations. Thank you for participating in the Prevention of Workplace Violence training module.